guys, it's Sam, and today I'm going to do my April wrap-up as well as book haul. This is the second month in a row I'm doing it this way because, as I've been saying, basically everywhere I've been kind of slumpy, like not really wanting to read, having other things going on I'm very interested in, aka Twitch streaming. This is my Twitch if you want to watch me live stream games like at least 2 times a week. But because I'm not reading a ton and I'm also not hauling a ton, I figured why put you guys through 2 different videos when you can just have it all in one, like a little sandwich. Also, I know you guys really like this background and I do too, but me leaning like this just makes me feel like, I don't know, like an Egyptian queen on a barge or something. But anyway, let's get into it, starting with the books. I read 4 books this month and they were all over the place. The first book I finished was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is a booktube darling, so I'd be surprised if you haven't heard about it. But this is a standalone contemporary fantasy. There are trigger warnings in here for some fatphobic language. Mostly it's the character thinking about himself, but it is throughout the story. It's never really corrected in narrative, and I just feel like it was a little bit like beating a dead horse over and over again, so just be aware of that. But this was a delightful little story, slice of life kind of thing. We have all of these kids who are so cute. You're going to have a favorite if you read this, or a couple of favorites, and just this sense of hope throughout that I feel like so many people needed for 2020, which is why this was such a big book last year, because it's not a super hard read. There's a sense of hope for humanity and for people changing in positive ways. There is a very cute male-male romance in here, and it's just this, like, I kind of compared it to a brighter and more hopeful, almost Tim Burton-esque movie. Like that's how I pictured everybody, but without that like dark Tim Burton like spooky edge to it. This is just more like light and whimsical and fun. So I ended up really enjoying this. We did this for the House Salt Book Club pick for March, so I will link our discussion of it on the screen as well if you want more of our spoilery thoughts, but I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. Then we have The Kindred Spirit Supper Club by Amy E. Reichert, and this is a adult contemporary romance that follows our main character of Sabrina, and she is returning to the Wisconsin Dells, which if you are a Midwestern American, you are familiar with that as a very hot vacation spot. It's the water park capital of the world, and it's a very kitschy area, which is what drew me to the synopsis in the first place. And she's begrudgingly returning there because her family can actually see ghosts, but they can only see ghosts when they are in the Dells. They're like the family that takes care of the ghosts there. And so she's being exposed to these ghosts, but she also has a lot of like panic disorder and generalized anxiety, and so that's a huge thing that has impacted her life, and she doesn't want to get stuck in the Dells. And at the very beginning she ends up meeting Ray, who is also new to the Dells. He is from a real estate family and he is trying to take his uncle's supper club, who has recently passed away, and make it continue to make it an establishment and like succeed there. They end up meeting at a water park and he is instantly drawn to her, although she is kind of like, because of her anxiety, like and they just keep on interacting from there, and everything kind of goes from there. This does have trigger warnings for death of a family member. This wasn't quite what I hoped it would be. I had really high hopes going into this because of the Dell setting, which I'm very familiar with, and we had this kind of like seeing ghosts element, which I've kind of realized now with adult contemporary romance, if there is a speculative element, I tend to not like it that much because it's very hard to get it right. I felt like that element was just in there like to push the plot along a bit, and a lot of the plot elements where the ghost seeing ties in was like a little bit too predictable. Like I was able to see how these connections were being made. One of the ghosts that she sees a lot is Molly, and she is somehow connected to Ray and Ray's family as well. And you're very quickly able to see, in my opinion, how that's going to kind of pan out. It also didn't make a ton of sense why Ray was so like drawn to her, because she really is putting up like all of the red flags of like, stay away from me. Not in a way that he's not being creepy. She's obviously like highly anxious, but it doesn't really make sense why he's like, ooh, this highly anxious person who can barely talk to me. You know, like I don't see what he sees in her, which made the romance also less believable for me. There's also some like, I think the book tries to do some things with like the miscommunication trope, but when we have, you know, like towards the end of the story big reveal of like, you know, the character has to reveal something, he actually like doesn't take it poorly, but she reacts as if he does. It's just like a whole thing where I'm like, what are we doing? So overall, I didn't love this. It was fine. I mean, I can get through like mediocre romance books, which is why I didn't DNF it. But I am giving it only 2 stars. I think if you do like love the Dells and are really nostalgic for it and do like more speculative points in your romance, then you might like this, but overall just wasn't really for me. 2 stars. Then I read Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is the first book in a dystopian, utopian, sci-fi young adult trilogy. There are trigger warnings in here for suicide and death of children, and I have done a full review for this recently, so I will link that on the screen. But this follows two characters who are getting possibly recruited into the Scythedom because in this futuristic world, we have conquered death, no one dies, we have conquered all illness, everyone can live forever and, you know, unage themselves, and everything is sort of perfect, but there still needs to be population control, so there is the Scythedom who essentially glean people, which is murder. But to be a scythe, you need to not want to be a scythe, and so these two characters end up getting sort of like recruited into this, and we follow their journey to potentially become scythes. I end up really liking this. I really enjoyed the world and discussion and themes of death, mortality, morals, as well as the political machinations in a system like this. I enjoyed our main characters also when I was reading it, but they have faded a little bit in my memory since then when I read it earlier this month, but I also really liked the scythes that we did get to follow, the actual teachers. They were much more compelling in my opinion. And then the plot, the twists and turns of the plot and just the different directions that it went that I wasn't really expecting, made it a really fast read and also made it so that I really want to continue with this series. I'm interested to see which directions it goes in, and the way that it left off was really nice too because you can read it as a standalone. It definitely wrapped up in a way that you could like leave it if you wanted to, but you can also continue if you want to as well, which I love when series do that. It's so nice. So I end up giving Scythe 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read this month was Enjoy the View by Sarah Morgenthaler. This is the third book in the Moose Springs companion series. These are adult contemporary romance series that are set in an Alaska town, which is trying to fight off the fact that it's a tourist town, and they all hate that it's a tourist town, but that's basically what's keeping them afloat. And this is a series that like keeps not doing super well, and they're too long and whatever, but I keep reading them. I think I'm done after this book though. This follows one of the characters we've met before. His name is Easton, and he is probably my favorite of the men. I don't know, I liked the guy in the last book, but I didn't like the last book as much. He's a mountaineer, so he just has like a man bun and a beard, and he likes to climb mountains. And the love interest, because I almost feel like he's the main character, it's debatable, but she is a Hollywood starlet who is trying to become a producer, and she is trying to film a documentary of the town, and because this town hates outsiders, they are like, no, but he agrees to take her up this mountain, and everything kind of goes from there. The thing with these books that I think doesn't help them in my eyes, but may be good for other people, is that the characters get together / know they like each other like really early on. Like as soon as they meet, there's like instant connection. There's no like ands, ifs, or buts about it, and I just tend to prefer more like slow burn, like will they, won't they, as far as the characters. Yeah, like if you're reading a romance, you know they will, but like the characters don't really know, not so much a miscommunication, but just like, yeah, we're not sure, because usually when you meet somebody that you like, you don't know for a little bit, but these characters always seem to like flirt very heavy-handedly with each other from like the get-go, are like very connected early on, and there's no doubt there, which is just not super fun for me to read about. I don't know. So there's just some of that with this, although like I said, I did like their dynamic a little bit more than I have the characters in previous books. The author did cut down on the length of this book, and also there's less annoying nicknames, because the first two books were really heavy-handed with the nicknames, and this didn't really have that, which was wonderful. But the big thing also that detracted from this book was that it's mostly this like mountain climbing journey, which was fine, but it was a little bit too like sort of suspenseful, but not really, because you're a romance book, so you can't get too like, you know, suspenseful. But I don't really want to read like survival stories, and this had that element to it, which again, you might really enjoy. It just wasn't really for me. And we also had the characters making some dumbass choices on that mountain, which was just like, no, like yikes. So really didn't like that either. Overall, this series is like really easy to read, which is why I keep picking them up, but I think that I'm done. I don't know if there's more books in the series after this, but I think I need to be done with this. I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. It was fun. So that is it for my wrap up. Let me quickly get into the few books that I got this month. The first book was a book that I traded for a while back when I was selling a lot of my books on Twitter before moving, and that is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. This is a dark fantasy standalone. I feel like it might be a YA, but our main character can basically go into people's like souls and their like dreams when they sleep, and there's this black door that she sees in there, and she's really like not supposed to touch it, but one day she does, and then like gets pulled into this like dark political intrigue thing. Also, our main character is Ace. So this is a book that I've had on my like radar. I think I put it on a most anticipated releases list when it first came out, and I'm trying to actually check those lists and be like, hey, try to read these books that you said you were really like looking forward to. So this is one that I'm intrigued about, and I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it either, so looking forward to this. Next, I was sent an arc from Tor, and that is A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow. This is a little novella, and is described as a subversive feminist twist on the Sleeping Beauty story. So this will be a good little one to read. It's coming out in October of this year. And lastly is this month's Owlcrate box. So as you guys know, I'm an Owlcrate affiliate, so they send me a box every month to unbox. I also have a coupon code down below that you guys can use for a percentage off of your box. I don't get any financial compensation for that code. I had someone give me some snark last month. I don't get paid for these boxes. They just send me the box. Like this is what I get. I get the cool stuff and the book and the box. I don't get monies for the coupon codes. I'm pretty sure the book that I think this is gonna be is a book that I really wanna read, was on one of my most anticipated lists for the spring. It's still spring, right? So Ruthless Rivals is this month's theme. I've never actually done this on this couch, okay. So the first thing is from Fable Grounds Coffee Speculiar, which is a cinnamon hazelnut Owlcrate exclusive coffee. Now I can't have hazelnut unless it's not real hazelnut, but I can smell it through here. I love the smell of hazelnut coffee. My nose just whistled. Sorry, allergy season. But I do love the smell of hazelnut coffee. Your girl used to work at Panera Bread as a teenager, and the hazelnut coffee smells delicious, but I couldn't drink it because I would be sick. I think some of the coffee grounds actually leaked out, which is why I can smell it. I'm gonna smell like hazelnut coffee all day. So this is a little etc. board game. I mean, I guess it's not really a board game. It's just like a little game. Challenge fellow fiction friends with categories that were designed just for bookworms. Readers will need to rack their bookish brains to score points in this fast-paced game of literary lists. So like a little card game. I wanna get coffee all over everything. Hold on, hold on. Abort mission. And this is a little chopstick case that says, "The stars incline us, they do not bind us." And it has little chopsticks in there, which is wonderful because sometimes I get food and they don't include chopsticks in it. So these are wonderful. These are reusable, obviously. And this is from These Violent Delights, which is a book that I do plan on reading soon because it was an Owlcrate former box and I really want to get to it. Oh, this is one of those little phone wallets. So this is from Hamilton. History has its eyes on you. And so you can use this to attach it to your phone, and this is like a little thing you can use to hold it, and you can stick like your cards and everything in here as well. Then we have this throw pillowcase. This is a Nevernight quote: "Conquer your fear and you can conquer the world." And this month's book is what I was hoping it was, and that is Witches Steeped in Gold by Sianen Smart. And this is a YA fantasy. I don't know if it's just a single book or if it's gonna be a series, but this is a Jamaican-inspired fantasy following two rival witches that have to, I think, work together. That's all I need. All I need. I'm very excited about this. I talk about this more in my anticipated releases for spring video, which I will link in case you don't know what books I'm looking forward to. And this is the Owlcrate exclusive cover. It's also signed by the author and has a letter from the author as well. And here is this month's pin, which is incredibly witchy, which I love. And then we have this month's newsletter, which shows the different covers and the different people involved in the box and little things like that. And the May theme is Expect the Unexpected. There's a little like ocean stuff. Every box will include officially licensed Lee Bardugo item from out of print. Hell yeah. So that is it for my April wrap up and book haul. Comment down below, let me know what books you read this month, if you read any of these books, and also what books that you picked up for yourself this month. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.